Welcome to Countouts. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at an example from IAS 21, the effects of changes in foreign exchange rates. Now, this example is very simple. In fact, if I were to say, the standard is actually one of the simplest to understand, to grasp. There's not much really to it. And you'll find that most of the theory that we deal with at IAS 21 will be captured really in this example. And you'll see how quick it is to get through it. I don't remember doing IAS 21 at school, and I remember the first time that I had to teach on IAS 21 and I had not done it before. I can tell you that it took me less than an hour to get the gist of what it's about and be able to teach it to someone else. And so that's how simple the standard is. It's not as complicated as some of the other standards. So we'll see how easy it is as we go through the example. Just one thing to mention, remember IAS 21 deals with the effects of changes in foreign exchange rates, as I've just mentioned. So what is happening here? Usually you are dealing with a foreign supplier who is dealing with a different currency, and so there are going to be effects there, of course, because if I'm buying in a different currency, what do I use in my books, or what do I record in my books, and at what point do I make that entry? And so that is what IAS 21 deals with. And so let's look at this example. We are asked to prepare the journal entries for the reporting period ended 28 February 2019. As always, you start by looking at what your required is before you read the scenario. Okay, it will be much easier once you know what you're required to do as you read through the information. Now, what are we told here? We are told that on the 14th of September 2018, Waterworx ordered inventories from a supplier in Amsterdam, Netherlands. The invoice was to the value of 75,245 euros. The inventories were to be shipped free on board, that is FOB, from Amsterdam on the 1st of January 2019. The inventories were delivered in South Africa on 29 January 2019. The invoice is payable on 31st of March 2019. Now, where do we begin here? If we are asked to do the journal entries, the first question is, what transactions happened? Because remember, we have to record journal entries when transactions take place. And so even though all the dates that we are given in our paragraph here also appear here with their respective exchange rates or spot rates for that particular date. And by the way, spot rate, what do we mean by that? We mean the rate at a specific point in time. So if I say my rate on the 14th of September 2018 is 16 rand for a euro, that means the 16 rand is my spot rate, right? My rate at that particular point in time or at that date. So if you're given all these dates, I'm sure you know that it doesn't mean that you'll have to journalize all these dates. You have to determine when did a transaction take place and when do I have to do the journal entry, because sometimes a student will do a journal entry for dates that you are not required to do the journal entry for. Okay, so let's look at it. On the 14th of September, do we have to do a journal entry for that date? Did a transaction take place? Well, we are told here, Waterworx ordered inventories from a supplier in Amsterdam, Netherlands. The invoice was to the value of 75,245 euros. And then we're told that the inventory was shipped on the 1st of January. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that the only thing that took place on the 14th of September 2018 was the ordering of the inventories. So to make it easier, to state it plainly, we don't record a journal entry at that point in time. So you can put 14 September 2018, no entry is passed as no transaction has taken place. It's just the ordering of the inventory. So there's nothing that you do in your books at that point in time. Okay. So if the only thing that has taken place at a specific date is just the ordering of the inventory, then you don't record the entry. The only time you'd record the entry at that particular point in time is if there's been movement in money, meaning you've paid your supplier on the date that you made the order, or the date that you made the order, the goods were put on a ship. That's the only time. But if it's just the ordering on that particular date, we don't record any journal entry. So let's keep going. So 14th September, no journal entry. The inventories were to be shipped free on board FOB from Amsterdam on the 14th of January 2019. Extremely important, the term that they have used here, free on board. Okay, you know that when you're dealing with IAS 21, that term will always be the FOB. And what does that mean? It means that if it says free on board, you just have to know, is it free on board from the point that it's being shipped, meaning the shipping point, or is it free on board the destination where it's coming to? So remember, these goods are coming to South Africa from Amsterdam. And so if it tells us free on board from Amsterdam, it means this is free on board shipping point. Okay, you might be more familiar with the term free on board shipping point and free on board destination. Well, we are told here free on board from Amsterdam, meaning shipping point. So it means that the risk and rewards of the inventories passed to us at that point in time. meaning that the moment that the supplier puts this inventory into the ship, their responsibility is done. Okay, now the risk and the rewards pass to us, meaning that if the inventory gets lost while it's en route to South Africa, we will bear the responsibility and not the supplier. So the supplier's responsibility ends when the goods are loaded onto the ship. That's what free on board shipping point, or free on board from the supplier's location. So the supplier will just put it on the ship from their location and the responsibility passes on to us. So that's what free on board shipping point or free on board origin, as you might see in other questions, would mean. Okay, that the responsibility passes to you as soon as it's put onto the ship, even though the ship is still in Amsterdam. Okay, I hope that has made sense, and you'll always be dealing with that, so you just need to highlight that very closely. In this case, we're told free on board from Amsterdam. They didn't indicate whether it's destination or shipping point, so we will have to decipher that from the information. We're told free on board from Amsterdam, meaning free on board shipping point at the place where goods are put onto the ship. Okay, so they could have said free on board to Durban, South Africa. Then you know there that it's free on board destination. The responsibility will pass on to us when it arrives in South Africa. By the way, that's what free on board destination means, that the supplier will remain responsible for the inventory that are put onto the ship until it arrives at our port here in South Africa. Okay, that's what free on board destination would mean. Okay, I hope that clarifies it. I just put a lot of theory there for you to just understand IAS 21, but that is a very important note, because that will determine at what point you record journal entries and what journal entries you're going to pass. So in this case, when goods were shipped free on board shipping point or free on board from Amsterdam, the supplier's shipping location, we need to record a journal entry on that date, because the risk of the inventories have just passed on to us at that point in time. If it said free on board destination or free on board to Durban, South Africa, then we would not be recording a journal entry, because we are still not responsible for the inventory. It's not our responsibility. It's not in our hands yet. We'll have to wait until it arrives at our location. I hope that's clear enough. So that means that the date that the supplier put the inventory onto the ship in Amsterdam, we are responsible for the goods. We have to recognize the goods in our books. So that is the 1st of January 2019. So we're going to pass the journal entry. So let's put down our solution here. Remember, the date that the goods were put onto the ship, that is the date that we will record our first journal entry, and we need to find the spot rate on the 1st of January 2019. And here we are told that on the 1st of January 2019, the spot rate was 16 Rand 41 cents. Okay, obviously they gave us 4 decimal points there. So what do we need to do? We need to take 75,245 euros multiplied by 16 Rand 41 cents to get how much the full value of our inventory is in Rand amount. And that's exactly what we're going to do. 75,245 euros multiplied by 16.4138, and that gives us a total value of 1,235,056 Rand 38 cents. Okay, that is what we're going to record. So what are we going to debit? What are we going to credit? I hope you know your debits and your credits at this point in time when you're doing IAS 21. If you don't, please revisit our other lessons. We've done accounting for beginners lessons where we show what your debits and your credits are, because you need that foundation in order for you to do the standards. In fact, any of the standards, for you to be able to grasp it well, you need to have understood the debits and your credits quite well. So we're going to debit our inventory. Inventory is an asset. Whenever we are receiving the asset, we debit it, and then we're going to credit foreign creditor, and then in bracket you can put accounts payable if you wish, but we can put a foreign creditor. That's sufficient here. So that is how it's going to look like, and the date there is the 1st of January 2019. So here's how it's going to look. 1st of January 2019, debit inventory, credit foreign creditor with the amount that we have just calculated using the spot rate at that specific point in time or at that date. And our narration here is recognizing inventory purchased. And you can see here, we've just recognized inventory that we have not received. And we may not even receive this inventory for the next 3 weeks. I'm not sure how long it takes to ship from Amsterdam to South Africa, but it might not be received for the next 3 weeks or even a month. Okay, so we're recognizing the inventory because the risks have just passed to us from the point the supplier put the goods onto the ship. And in fact, the supplier would remove this inventory from their books. They would debit foreign data and credit sales. And of course, if they're using the perpetual inventory system, they would debit cost of sales and credit inventory. And that means that they have removed the goods from their books. They're done with the sale of the inventory, even though the goods have just been shipped at their port. Okay, that is what it means, free on board from the supplier's location or free on board shipping point. I hope that's clear enough. When you do many examples, you will be able to notice this. Now, if you go to our Dropbox folder, which is available for all our members, you will find some of the examples. So if you go to our Dropbox folder and you just find the search box there and click IAS 21, you'll be able to see some of the examples that are there for doing journal entries such as this, as well as some of the material that are there that explains the theory that we've just gone through. But if you understand this, you get the gist of IAS 21. Now, let's keep going. When else does a transaction take place? Let's go here. The inventories were delivered in South Africa on the 29th of January 2019. Do we record a journal entry at that point in time? No, because it's not free on board destination point. Okay, free on board destination, it's not. And so we've already recognized the inventories when they were put onto the ship. So on the 29th of January, we don't pass any journal entry because there's no transaction that has taken place at that point in time. That is why I said the term free on board destination or shipping point, or how you are given the information, is one of the most important thing when you have to do journal entries. That will determine when you pass journal entries. So on the 29th of January, nothing happened there. No journal entry will be passed because of this statement that we are given, free on board from Amsterdam. So when else are we recording a journal entry? Well, we will have to record a journal entry at year end if we have not paid our supplier yet, or we've not paid everything to our supplier yet. And that's the case here. Look at this. We are told that the invoice is payable on the 31st of March 2019. So our question is, when is our financial year end? Well, the requirement does give us here, prepare the journal entries for the reporting period ended 28th February 2019. That means our financial year will come first, and then we make a payment after the end of the financial year. If that's the case, there's a journal entry that we need to pass at the end of the financial year. Now listen to this. The reason we're passing a journal entry is because we need to retranslate our monetary items. Remember, we don't translate our non-monetary items. We retranslate only the monetary items. Okay, that might sound like jargon you don't understand, but here's what it means. Our monetary items is basically what we owe our supplier, meaning accounts payable, or what our customer owes us if it were accounts receivable in the example. But in this case, we're dealing with accounts payable. That is a monetary item, okay, meaning something that can turn into cash quite quickly, or cash and cash equivalent. So if you've got bank, cash and cash equivalent, accounts receivables, accounts payables, those ones would be monetary items. But non-monetary items such as inventory and even non-current assets. Remember, when you buy non-current assets from foreign suppliers, you'll still have to apply these principles, okay? So you have to know what is monetary and what is non-monetary. It's easy to figure it out because we know inventory is not a monetary item. It's a physical good, okay? But the money we owe to our supplier is a monetary item. So we need to make sure we retranslate our monetary items. That means we need to record our accounts payable or our foreign creditor on the financial year end at the rate at that date, okay? So our financial year end in this case is the 28th of February 2019. So we need to take the rate at that date, which is the 15 rand 92 cents, okay? So we need to retranslate our foreign creditor and record it at that amount. So let's do that journal entry at year end. Remember, the only reason we are doing the journal entry at year end is because we have not paid our creditor yet at year end, okay? We're only going to pay them after year end. That is why we need to retranslate the monetary item, and the only monetary item in this case is the foreign creditor here. So we need to say how much is the value that we owe our foreign creditor at year end. So if we were to pay this foreign creditor at year end, how much in rand value would we be paying them? Obviously, we want to take the 75,245 multiplied by this amount that we're given here, 15 rand 92 cents, with all the decimals that we are given. So let's remove this one here. But here's how I like to do it. And if it's helpful for you, you can also do it this way, okay? Because we need to determine whether we made a foreign exchange gain or a foreign exchange loss. Okay, so our company is in South Africa. If the rand value has gone up from the time we recorded the journal entry that we owe our supplier to year end, if our rand value has improved versus the euro, then we know we have a foreign exchange gain. But of course, the opposite is true as well. If our rand amount has dropped, or if our rand value has dropped against the euro, then we'll have a foreign exchange loss. So we need to determine how much that is. So here's how I like to do it. We will take the euro 75,245 and then we'll multiply that by open bracket the rate at which we recorded our first journal entry, meaning on the 1st of January 16.4138 minus the rate at year end 15.9281. And then if it gives me a positive answer when I punch it into my calculator, then I know it's a foreign exchange gain. If it gives me a negative value, then I know it's a foreign exchange loss. But it's easy for you to figure that out. In fact, but just by looking at the exchange rates, you already know whether you have a foreign exchange gain or loss. So look at this. On the 1st of January, we recorded and our rand amount was 16.41. Okay, so if the rand amount is the quote rate, meaning that it's €1 to the rand amount, meaning that the foreign supplier is always 1 and ours is always, of course, the amount that is equivalent to the 1. That means ours is a quote rate. So you'll see here that the higher the rand amount is on the right hand side, then the more money we'll end up paying our supplier. But in this case, on the 1st of January 2019, we've got 16.4132, and at year end 28 February 2019 we got 15.9281. That means that we owe our supplier less at year end because our rand value has improved from the time we had recorded our journal entry. I hope that's making sense. If you understand how foreign exchange rates work, you know that the higher the amount that I have to pay for every €1, then the less valuable my currency is. In this case, it's gone down from 16.41, as I've just mentioned, to 15.92, which is a good thing. Okay, the lower the rand becomes, if it's the quote rate, as is the case here, where it's on the right hand side, then the less I will have to pay my supplier. I hope that has made sense. I tried to explain it as best as I could, but that is what I like to do. So look at it here. We've got €75,245 multiplied by open bracket the rate at which I recorded the foreign supplier for the first time, or the foreign creditor for the first time, which is the 16.4138, and then we deduct our current rate at year end, 15.9281, and you can see it gives us a positive 36,546 rand 50 cents. That means that it's a foreign exchange gain for me. We didn't have to do this calculation to figure out that it's a foreign exchange gain. Like I mentioned, if the previous spot rate at the date of recording the entry was higher than the spot rate at year end, then we have a foreign exchange gain. If the opposite is true, then we have a foreign exchange loss. And that's why I like to put it in brackets like this, to put the previous amount minus the current one, and it will give me either a negative or a positive. If it's a negative, it's a foreign exchange loss. If it's a positive, it's a foreign exchange gain. Now, what is my journal entry that I'm going to pass? Well, if it's a foreign exchange gain, it means at year end, or at that point in time, I owe my foreign creditor less than I initially recorded it at. Alright, and less by how much? 36,546 rand 50 cents. So I'm going to debit my foreign creditor to reduce the amount that I actually owe him, and then credit my foreign exchange gain with 36,546 rand 50 cents. And the date is year end 28 February 2019. So here's how it's going to look. 28 February 2019, debit foreign creditor 36,546 rand 50 cents, and credit foreign exchange gain 36,546 rand 50 cents. And our narration there is remeasurement of the foreign currency creditor. Okay, and you can see here that I also wrote foreign creditor remeasurement. Remember, we are remeasuring only the foreign creditor and not the inventory, because the foreign creditor is a monetary item and inventory is not. We don't remeasure the non-monetary item. Okay, and you will see now, if you are to do the balance sheet, if you are told to do a note to the balance sheet, what is my foreign creditor going to be, or my accounts payable going to be for the foreign creditor specifically in the balance sheet? It's going to be the €75,245 multiplied by the 15 rand 9281 cents. Okay, and that will give me how much I owe them at year end. And you'll see that it will measure up to what I've put, because I initially recorded it at a higher amount. I've reduced it by what my foreign exchange gain is, and that will give me the net amount, which is exactly what I've just mentioned, by taking the euros multiplied by the spot rate at year end. Okay, that's the journal entry you pass at year end when you have not yet paid your foreign creditor. Now, when else do we pass a journal entry? Well, at the date of payment. Whenever we pay our foreign creditor, we have to pass the journal entry that you have paid them. Now, this is where you'll also have either a foreign exchange gain or a foreign exchange loss. I think that's always going to be the case, unless your foreign exchange rate has not changed from year end to the point where you're making payment. But of course, if you're studying, there will always be a change, because they want to test you on whether you understand the concepts and whether you can account for them clearly well. Okay, and you can see that's changed. It's gone from 15.9281 to 16.0300. That means, is that good for me or bad for me? That's bad for me, because I'm paying more. All right, I was paying 15 rand 9281 cents for €1 at year end, but now I have to pay 16 rand 0.03 cents at the point in time where I'm paying the supplier. Okay, so we have to do the exact same calculation. You see this one here that we've done. we're going to take the 75,245 euros multiplied by, open bracket, what is my previous spot rate, that is the 15.9281, and then we deduct our current spot rate at the date of payment, 16.03, and then you close bracket, and then that will give us either a positive or negative. I already know it's going to be a negative, a foreign exchange loss, because we're now paying more for every euro when we actually have to pay our supplier on the 31st of March 2019. So here's how it's going to look. You take the euros multiplied by the previous spot rate, which is at year end, 15.9281, minus the current spot rate at the date at which we're paying our supplier, 16.03, and that will give us a negative 7,667 rand 0.47 cents. I hope it's making sense, and I hope you can clearly see whether you've made a foreign exchange gain or a foreign exchange loss. It's always easy to identify it because you know whether you're paying more for every euro or you're paying less for every euro. If you're paying more, then it's a foreign exchange loss. So what are we going to do in this case? We're going to debit foreign exchange loss, because a foreign exchange loss is an expense account. I didn't mention in the previous journal entry that we passed, a foreign exchange gain is an income account. That's why we're crediting it. But in this case, it's a loss, foreign exchange loss, and then we're debiting it. And then we're going to credit our foreign creditor, meaning we now owe him more than we actually did at year end. So here's how it's going to look. Debit foreign exchange loss, 7,667 rand 47 cents, and then credit foreign creditor with the same amount, and the narration there is remeasurement of the foreign currency creditor. And we have our date here, the date at which we're making payment. Now, are we done? Not quite yet, because we have not recognized the payment to the foreign supplier or the foreign creditor. So let's do that. It's going to be easy. We're just going to debit our foreign creditor and then credit our bank. What is the amount that we're going to pay the foreign creditor? Well, we can just take the euros, 75,245 euros multiplied by the date at which we are paying the foreign creditor, 16.0300. And here's how it's going to look. That gives us 1,206,177 rand 35 cents. That's how much we're paying the foreign creditor on the 31st of March 2019. And here's how it's going to look. Debit foreign creditor and credit bank. And the narration there is payment to foreign creditor. And this is on the 31st of March 2019. Now, if you want to make sense of it all, if you put all your journal entries together, you will see that we credited foreign creditor when we recognized our inventory because it was free on board shipping point or from the supplier's location, Amsterdam. And then you deduct foreign creditor on the debit side because of the foreign exchange gain. And then you add back foreign exchange loss because we credited our foreign creditor again. And it should give you this exact same amount. If it doesn't, you've made a mistake somewhere else. So what I'm saying is, if all your journal entries, you've got the foreign creditor on the credit side, a foreign creditor on the debit side, a foreign creditor on the credit side again, or a foreign creditor on the credit side the first time you're recognizing obviously that you owe your creditor, and then foreign creditor on the debit, foreign creditor on the debit for the three journal entries, you just net them off and it should give you the same answer. Okay, so let's go back. Let me just show you what I mean by what I just said. Let's see, our first journal entry would be this one here where we credited our foreign creditor. Okay, so we credited this amount here for the foreign creditor, so we're going to take that amount, and then we're going to see our second journal entry where we debited our foreign creditor. So we're going to take the first amount from the first journal entry minus this debit, because it's on the debit side we're going to deduct it, 36,546 rand 50 cents, and then we're going to look at our third journal entry where we add 7,667 rand 47 cents because it's on the credit side, meaning we owe our supplier more or our foreign creditor more, and then we will see if it gives us this amount here, which we got by taking the amount we owe the foreign creditor in their currency multiplied by how much our currency is currently trading at the point of payment. It should give you the same answer, and you know you've done everything correctly. Hopefully, of course, that you've done everything correctly. I hope that has made sense and you're able to reconcile your journal entries together with doing this calculation that we've just done here. I hope this lesson has made sense. I hope it's cleared out some of the confusion you might have had, or if you didn't know how to do journal entries with IAS 21, now you do. Now go to Dropbox, check out those lessons, find them in one of the folders. You can search for it, IAS 21, or even search for the word foreign creditor, and you'll be able to see them, and you can see how it makes sense, or you can attempt them and see if you're understanding it. Hope you've gained value from this lesson. Till next time, cheers.